initial thing is when you're looking at being a startup, you typically find a problem scenario, a problem area, and then you try to find a product that fits that problem area. The problem with most of the startups that we've seen coming up is that they pick a space which is rather narrow and don't understand how, when then they realize that not every single company have that single problem. And I think that's a lot of what we try to do with the Orkestra idea, is to create a platform where you can kind of like look at what everybody else have done, but then bring it all together in a single pane of glass or a single lens, where you can visualize all these things end to end. And I think that's a little bit of, again, one of the, I would say to a certain degree, deficit of a lot of startups. They only focus on port to port. But when you look at the spend of supply chain, if you look at the procure to pay and all the way to e-com delivery, which we see now massively booming, to have a single tool that can capture all of that under one single, let's say, view is I would say to a big degree missing in the market space. And that was a lot of the vision that came about with this one, is to have, number one, the platform, but also the consultancy to understand, well, how do you drive your business and how do you drive change with the business? How do you drive the culture of your organization and the people that you need to have involved in your supply chain? And then, of course, also looking at the 4PL operation. Because like we've seen with a lot of platforms or digital freight forwarders, they all started off as, we just want to be a software provider. We just want to deliver the software. But the reality is, when let's say you check into a hotel, it's no question who's responsible for the service. And the same thing with an airline. So I think if you book with a platform, the expectation is that if I have an issue, I can resolve it through your platform. And that's where most of these organizations somehow starts to falter and fail, is because they just don't have the people on the ground. There's nobody who can pick up the phone at 8 o'clock in the evening and fix a container stuck at customs or in a port, that have that kind of connectivity. So what we tried to do with this idea was really about connecting legacy operators, if you may, with a little bit more modern technology that really it's more agile and fresh in the front end, but not replacing the TMS of the freight forwarders, but visualizing what they're doing and then enabling the pathway to resolve issues using the existing network providers. That's essentially some of the visions that came about in that one. And I think there's a lot of areas of contention when it comes to the vision of a freight forwarder. So typically, they don't operate as a single entity, other than financially, across the entire spectrum of supply chain services. You have a very much P&L oriented service offering. And this is, of course, an area where I think a lot of the disruptors have an opportunity to close the gap in creating that cross-business unit experience.
I should have pre-framed it. Orkestra is the best company I have seen. Anders comes with about 25 years.
No, but the thing is, I've been a freight forward for 30 years. I've been doing technology for 30 years. I fit kind of like the previous profile quite well. No, but to be frank, I think, you don't do what I've done on your own, right? It's not a single person thing that you do. And to the point, it's all about building the right type of teams, and I always took all of my team members from within the company and from the forwarding side. Very few people were brought in from the IT side, because the idea first and foremost have to function. It needs to answer the questions and the needs from a market. And I've been probably hands-on implementing more than 1,000 customers in my lifetime. All in different verticals, all in different territories of this planet. And I can tell you, there's not a single one of them that had exactly the same requirement. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges when you're starting to go, like Eric said before, when you're starting to go wide, you need to go very, very, very deep if you want to capture all the functionalities. And I think a lot of technologies, they have two ways of doing this. Either they stay very, very shallow. They have a wide capability, but very shallow in the case of how they can do it. And then that's where the disruptors can come in. They can create that deeper dive of those specific customers that have additional needs. But then a lot of the challenges then becomes a lot of the wide, let's say, shallow technologies that are sitting on the planet are proprietary. They are not built for collaboration. They're built for a tool for the inside, not for a tool that talks in and out. Plus, they are lacking the capabilities of APIs within the individual modules of the tool. And I think that's one of the challenges that I saw in my previous organization when we tried to look into, well, how can we embed modern startups into the ecosystem? And it really came down to the lack, or let's say, limited capability of integrating using smarter methodologies. And of course, as we talked about before, security will always be an issue, right? So I think this is a little bit where the startup scene are a little bit more loose when it comes to actual security. Yep. But they're catching up very, very fast. Don't get me wrong; they're catching up very, very fast. But I think that's probably one of the areas that are lacking with a lot of startups. Number one, they don't understand the actual business case of customers, and they think that one company operates the same way around the world. I mean, I literally I've been working with customers that have 21 different SAP implementations that didn't speak to each other. So you can imagine how easy it is to build technology around something like this, right? So I think that's a little bit the unknown. You know, what you don't know. But it's come to realization very quickly when you try to convince customers that you have the best and greatest on the planet, and then they realize, yeah, but we can't even work with it. Even if we wanted to, we can't work with it.